So on my Discord, somebody asked us about this person's like checklist for dating. I don't want to name the person. That's what I was debating if I should do. I don't want to name the person. I don't think it's important, but they are a content creator. I don't really know who they are. That's why I don't think it's important. And somebody screenshotted their Instagram, put it onto Reddit, and was like, what do you guys think about this? I'm going to read you their list of their requirements for dating a man. And I think the only thing that might be important to know is they're a girl and they're autistic and they're in their 30s. But other than that, I don't know if any of that is important. I would never put this person on blast and not also put myself on blast. So I also wrote a list many years ago of all the things I want in a partner. And I want to show you why I thought her list was incredibly filled with like red flags and why I thought it was really bad and why I think she might be struggling in many ways. Again, not knowing who this person is really, but don't worry. I'm going to also put myself on blast because I would never just throw a girly under the bus without throwing myself there with her. Okay. So I'm going to read it out to you. If it has to be a man, I'm looking for a man who, 1, has no kids in their life in any capacity. Now, as an autistic girly myself, when I read that, I said has no kids in any capacity, like nieces, nephews, students, any capacity? I'm not sure what that means. So does anyone know what any capacity means? Because I read that as like nieces and nephews. So confused. Okay. Doesn't want kids. Okay, fair. Is expressive, face, hands, eyes, and voice. Okay. Versus more monotone. Okay, noted. Is between 34 and 40, no exceptions. Okay. That's interesting. Between 34 and 40, no exceptions. Okay. Is above 5'10". I'm a majority attracted to taller men. I'm being totally honest. I've had a lifetime of men telling me they prefer me with long hair. Why can't I feel like this too? 6 and above feels right for me. So obviously we're a gender deconstruction kind of bubble. We're a deconstruct gender norms, falling in love with the consciousness. So obviously right away, I think all of us agree like this is negative, right? This is bad because, the fact that they prefer you with long hair, why can't I feel this way? They're both wrong, right? Like they're both bad. You know what I mean? Chat says, I think she means who isn't a baby daddy. Okay, sorry. I do this thing and I really got to stop doing it. Obviously, that's what she meant, but I'm actually nitpicking her language to tell her the reason you're struggling in life is because you can't be clear with what you want. Let me rephrase. Obviously, we know what she's saying is she doesn't want a baby daddy. Obviously, what she's saying is she doesn't want somebody who's co-parenting. But what she really should have written down is I'm looking to start a family on my own or have no kids at all. So the reason she's struggling with dating is because she's not clear with communication because it doesn't make any sense. Right? But I hear you, chat. I'm not actually asking. I'm sorry. I got to be more clear about the fact that I already know what she means, but she's wrong. So the same thing with this. Why can't I want guys who are 6 feet? Why can't I want guys of a certain age? Because girly, then you're not falling in love with the consciousness. You're falling in love with a version. But I understand a guy of a certain age might be because of like cultural things we have in common, which actually would help if she wrote that down. Like if she actually wrote it down and said, oh, I would like a guy within this age range because I feel like we'd have the most in common. I'd be like, yeah, I hear you. I think 5 years is like a great age range difference, but I can see other ages working. Okay, I'm with you there, right? Okay. Cares about their health, gym, and activities. Okay, that's fair. Okay, and remember, every point I read, I would love to know more. Like, I would love to say, oh, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by the gym? Right? Like, what do you mean? And chat, every answer you give is good, right? Because I should be more clear too about what I'm thinking so we can have a better conversation. So that was my bad. Let's see. This part, ready? Is neurotypical and extroverted, has some real go in them, goes out into the world as well as happily having some loving time at home together. I need energy and momentum. Okay. Is neurotypical and extroverted, this person's autistic. Internalized ableism, right? Gotta be. Okay, so I won't even like pretend. Internalized ableism. So you're autistic, but you need someone who's like completely the opposite of you and isn't neurodivergent? Like, why would you cut off your time or your ability to make connection with somebody who's... Now, look, I'm a neurodivergent, married to a neurodivergent, and our relationship is, I think, so much better because of that. But I also wouldn't I am open to dating anybody of any disability, of any background, of any monetary, whatever. Right? Okay. Now, is cuddly and affectionate with me, but understands I'm not what's expected. I am romantic, sexual, and physical. I do want that in life. They said segual. Wait, no, is this sexual or is this a word I don't know? Segual? Seggual? Is that the way to say sexual? So they don't get demonetized or something? Isn't fixed or settled down in Essex. I want to go. Okay, so they want to move. So they want to find someone local, but they want to move. Okay, it is a dumb way to say sexual. Okay, thank you. Has good work ethic, works like I do. Okay, so now they're saying, I want somebody who has a good work ethic and works the same way I do. Okay, that's difficult because I understand. I used to think that way too. I used to think, oh, I need somebody who works like I do, but my partner doesn't work. And I think that's a capitalistic perspective. I also think when people buy into the narrative that we need two incomes to survive, that's also buying into capitalism narratives because that's not true. I mean, it can be true, but it's not actually true. It's only true if it is true, but it's not true. Like if we moved to America, yes, our life would be a little different, but he wouldn't then get a job. You know what I'm saying? Like moving to a place, our lifestyle would just become different. You know, maybe they'd get a job if we had to, but if we live within our means and we live within a frugal lifestyle, then like it doesn't necessitate a job necessarily. And that's how I look at it instead. Is like, is our lifestyle the one that can, so again, it's only true if it's true for you, but it's not always true. So when you say, I want a partner who works like me, what does that mean? Love is Blind this last season had a woman on there who had, yes, sold a business and made money. And also her dad had left her an inheritance. And Megan Sparkle. And then she paired up with this guy named Jordan, who is a dad who happens to have a kid. He co-parents with his ex. Okay. And he is a working man and she is rich and she wants to fly off to Cabo all the time. Right. They feel like their lifestyles are incompatible, which was obvious. But what was funny is the whole time Megan kept saying, I'm rich. I want to go have a rich life. I want you to come with me. He was like, well, I don't have a rich life and I have a kid I take care of part-time and I have responsibilities. I can't afford that. I can't afford the homes you want. I can't afford the life you have. At no point did she say, I'll pay for you. At no point did she say, you don't even have to work, or you can work at my location, or you can get a job in your field somewhere else. But like, I can support us. I can buy this house. Versus my brain goes, you don't have to work if you don't want to. I can pay for things. You know, that's the difference. The difference is like, if you want to, you know, again, the relationship I have with money is like all labor is good labor, even if it's not a paycheck. But if my partner came to me and said, hey, I really want to own a boat, I'd say, okay, we can't own a boat on my salary, but if you would like to contribute to our household income, I support you getting a job, and that income will be put into our regular spending budget like normal. We don't have our money, his money, sure, her money, their money. All of our money pools into the same pot and we divvy it out into our goals together as a unit. So if you want a boat and we agree on a boat, because I would also have to agree to the boat, then we can talk about it. We made the decision as a married couple not to live separately in any capacity. So if we cannot agree on buying a boat, we're not buying a boat. Because it's a family decision. It is a family decision to own a boat. If you've ever had anybody in your life who even owned a tiny little fishing boat, it is a commitment. It is a commitment you do not understand unless you own a boat. And I'm telling you right now, that is a family decision. Okay? Even if we can afford it, it's a family decision. Okay? So depending on how you do your money, this is a serious conversation. Okay? So want somebody with the same work ethic. Okay, it goes back. Back to her list. Let's see. Okay. It is in a similar situation life-wise and financially, has similar ideas and plans, money, pensions, homes, travel. We need to be in sync and equals together, even if financially separate. Okay, what does that mean? What is your standard? What is your idea? What do you have in mind? Because, even if financially separate, well, is financially separate even allowed? In my marriage, we're not doing financially separate. We're not doing it. We're not interested, right? So that already is a deal breaker. I wish she would go into detail about what these things mean, because these things are so nebulous. What does that mean? Right? And that's the part that I want to encourage you to know. Why do you think this? Why do you need this? What do you mean by that? Right? Because I don't know what she means by it. I have too many questions, okay? Especially if you're gonna make a list. But it's okay. I'm not judging. I will share with you my former list that I made when I was a youngin, and you'll see it's just like it's so funny, right? It's almost silly. Let's see. Chad says, I think a good and bad are spectrums. Oh, this is a commentary on what we talked about in the beginning. I think even people who have done bad things can redeem themselves. Of course, of course. Like this person who made this list. It's a bad list, but I'm sure she could redeem herself. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Inspires me. This is a major for me. What do you guys think about that? They said, I need a partner who inspires me. Ooh, I don't know about this one. I think this one's a little weird for me. You know? Inspires me. I don't know. I don't know. Inspires me. I think I'm probably saying yellow flag for me. I don't need my partner to inspire me. As a requirement of our marriage. That feels strange to me. But I would love to know what she means by inspire. Yeah, Chad says, what does she mean by that? Yeah, I would like to know, right? I would need to know, like, oh, what do you mean? That's interesting. Can you tell me more about that, right? Chad says no one is answering a bullet list like a job listing. Well, okay, to be fair, this isn't, I made a list like this too when I was young because I think this is the autism. She's autistic, right? My partner said to me, my first date with him felt like a job interview. It was 8 hours long. No exaggeration. It was 8 hours. And we talked on the computer. And I said, okay, where are you financially? What's in your bank account? What do you have medically? What's up with your family? What's your relationship with politics? How do you feel about religion? Do you want kids? Yes or no? That was how we dated. And after our first date, we said, damn, baby, you might be it. I said, I think I want to meet your mom. You know, I said, we got to have a second date. You know, so for a lot of us, especially neurodivergent people, this is the greatest way to date. That's why it's interesting that she wants a neurotypical person. Because what neurotypical person is going to want this? That's what I'm saying. The list itself is so autistic. And the fact that she won't date another autistic person is so funny to me. Like, girly, you better end up with a neurodivergent person. Because, like, hello? Isn't that kind of funny? Right? It's just like such a funny idea. Okay. Hold on. Did anybody say anything you want me to read? Let's see. Inspiring for me in my book is something I've always done for myself. Chad says maybe they have characteristics she admires. Ooh, yeah, maybe like I don't know. I'd have to ask my partner. I think sometimes he does say like he's been so sweet this week about like you're really amazing. Like he'll say that he's like you're really amazing, you know? Like I don't know if he ever says you inspire, but I think he means to imply what maybe she means to say. But I also feel like requiring that of a partner is kind of unfair. It doesn't even make sense. Like, you inspire me versus like, hey, I'm so impressed by you, or you're really great, or wow, like I can't believe how much you do, you know? But that's not about you. That's you complimenting them. It's not about what he gets. See, when she says you have to inspire me, then it feels like your accomplishments are now about me. Oh, that's why I don't like it. Yeah. Versus admiring your partner's successes, something, you know? Chad says, this is a hard one. Doesn't share my disabilities. I've been open in the past and for many years dated people like me, but post-diagnosis of me being autistic myself, after everything I've been through already, the fact is I still have a 10-year battle with NHS and with ADHD and more. And for the foreseeable future, I need the space and safety and the ability to be me. Oh, for me, that's ableism. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's so ableistic. Like, I can't even process that information out loud. Like, I wonder if, it doesn't share my disabilities. I don't even know what that means. That feels so, that just sounds like a neurotypical person being like, oh, I don't want to date somebody who's autistic because like they're disabled, or I don't want to date a person with disabilities. I think that's ableist because you don't even know what that means. You know how many boys out here, ADHD and okay, I saw a TikTok. Oh my God, wait, do I have it? Let me see if I can pull it up for us. This is so perfect. Please tell me I saved it. Oh my God, please tell me I saved it. Please tell me I saved it. Oh my God, please tell me I saved it. Yes.
And probably.
Okay. It says allegedly ADHD men offloading their executive function onto their wives and secretaries is why doctors used to think people grew out of ADHD. What? I believe that. So many men are ADHD, but would never identify as disabled. They would just identify as a guy. Oh, I don't shower for weeks on end because I'm a guy. I don't have to. Oh, I'm not hygienic because I'm a guy. I don't have to. Oh, I lose my keys all the time. Like, I'm a guy. What does it matter? Like, oh, I don't know how to keep time and I'm always late to dates, but that's like because I'm a guy. Like, oh, yeah, I forgot our anniversary, but that's like because I'm a guy, you know? It's like, bro, you're ADHD, bro. And the women in your life are pulling your weight because, oh, he's just a guy. And that's what she's saying. She is saying, I am the main character in my relationship and everything is about me. But I don't think she's malicious. I think she's disabled and I think she's struggling, probably because she hasn't come to terms with the fact that, like, you are more than your disability. You are a consciousness. And so, yeah, like, I think this original poster, I don't think I don't know her, so I don't know. But I would like to think she's not a bad guy. You know what I mean? Right? Wait, Chet said it's ableist not wanting to date neurodivergent people, even if they think it's just their preference. There are many who are not aware of being neurodivergent. Exactly. I think that's the problem. Preferences are for, like, what kind of fruit do you like? You know? That's why I say, like, I love the consciousness for who they are. And I think these conversations are important. Like, when my partner and I were courting, I was going through a diagnosis for a chronic illness I didn't have a name for yet. And I told them, like, I don't know what my diagnosis is going to be. I don't know what my life is going to look like. Are you open to being open? And they said yes. And it's been nice. It's been a great process together. But I think the thing is, at the end of the day, we're also in a very unique position because we want to be together regardless of anything that happens. Disability, transitions, we want to be together as long as our values are the same and as long as there's no abuse. We want to be together. I don't care what diagnosis comes up. I don't care, like, what gender, who anybody is. I don't care about if you lose all your limbs in a car accident. Like, I'm not leaving, right? Now, if you're abusive, if you become a Nazi, if all of a sudden you're like Trump, 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 okay, well, then we're going to have a conversation about value differences, right? But otherwise, like, for me, we're here together. So, we're both neurodivergent, which means there's a level of disability in that. But for us, we just kind of roll with the punches. We're very kind to each other. And, we're not trying to live up to some neurotypical way of being either. And I think that helps. I think this is, you have to unlearn. I think this is what this person is struggling with, which is why I'm trying to be compassionate. I think this person is struggling with the lack of deconstructing from the neurotypical expectation of success. You're not neurotypical. You need to stop aiming for that level of success because the world wasn't built for neurodivergent people. And if you keep trying to play the games like neurotypicals, like, you will almost always lose, or it will come at the expense of your loved ones, which it often does with ADHD men especially, So that's what it is, okay? Chet says, I think the idea is that we cannot both be in a deficit in the same way. Someone has to be able to cover for that. Yeah, but no one's in the deficit the same way usually. So this person, hold on, let me see what they said again. Let me go back. Doesn't share my disabilities. Yeah, but that doesn't make sense because, like, you could both be blind. So you could both be autistic. It's not going to show up the same. You could both be ADHD. It's not going to show up the same. You could both be, I don't know, whatever disability that means, and it wouldn't show up the same. So she's writing off a whole group of people and assuming that their disability would be the same when it isn't. You've met one autistic person, right? Not everyone has the same relationship with, quote, disability as other people. So that's why the problem with this is that she's doing this thing that everyone does, which says, oh, I'm going to assume we can't be the same because I've dated some people versus, and I don't blame her. I did the same thing when I was younger. Okay. I did the same thing when I wasn't much even younger than her, where I assumed that these checkpoints would find me the consciousness that I would vibe with instead of loving the consciousness that I do. Regardless of these other things, we'll figure it out as long as our values are the same. Values are not disability. Your values are not reflected in your disability. Your values are reflected in how you talk about and engage with disability. So for me, if I was looking at her thing to date her, I would say, oh, we don't share the same values when it comes to disability. Our values around disability are different. So therefore, we're not compatible. But we're still both disabled. I'm autistic. She's autistic. I'm probably ADHD. She's ADHD. Do you know what I mean? Jelly beans. Let me see. Okay, let's keep going. If I miss any good comments, let me know. Okay, hasn't done anything. Oh, this is crazy. Are you ready? Hasn't done everything already with another partner. I want somebody who has yet to tick the big life moments off their list and be in sync with me. This is the problem, because if she's 32, then the only person that might fulfill this is what, a 17-year-old? What are you talking about? You sound like a guy who's like, I need a virgin. I need a virgin. Like, what does that even mean? The older you get, Habibi, the more likely you will meet people who have ticked those things off a box. You know what I mean? So that doesn't even, how does that even work? Like, she'll have to, and then she said she wants to date someone 34 to 40. How can you want to be with someone 34 to 40, but expect them not to have anything accomplished? Do you have a house? What do you have? Right? Chet said, is she also saying she hasn't had any life experiences? Yeah. What? So that's why I need details. Like, what do you mean by that? You know, what have you, like, you know, I don't know what that means. That's what I mean. I need more answers. Okay. Let's see. Will grow old with me, not see me as Miss Tuesday. I mean, sure. Yeah. Long-term partnership. Okay. Love some things I do. Similar music interests would be a miracle. Kayaking would be great, but feel you've missed so much. Wait, kayaking? Kayaking would be great, but feel you've missed so much already there. Huh? Running. Is that the word? Kayaking? Running out of things that still spark joy to share. In all honesty, I'm tired. A take guru would really rock the boat. What? Love some of the things I do. Similar music interest would be a miracle. Kayaking would be great, but feel you've missed so much already there. What does that mean? Discord says, I don't want to date someone who's further than me watching One Piece. Joking. Stop. Dead. I'm confused. I said, is this for a dating app? It was posted to their Instagram. They're a YouTuber, apparently. This is posted to Instagram. So what's she saying? Yeah, chat's saying maybe she's done a lot of kayaking. So she's saying because I've done a lot of kayaking, we can't do kayaking together because it won't be our first time? What? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Okay, so then the ending point says, okay, doesn't mind being part of my life online too. I can't be with someone who I have to censor out of every part of it, be there, done that, never again. Initial dating is different, of course. Long term, I want you in my life entirely. Will be my best friend in all things. I'm so tired. Honestly, they just sound too depressed for me. I need your depression to be different. Not that you're a bad person if you're depressed. Like, I don't mind if my partner's depressed, but they're kind of like depressed in a way that I'm like, I don't know, girly. Right? Like, you know, in that, like, you have to be on my street. I'm married. You've never seen my partner. I don't talk about my partner. I don't even use their name. Right? So it's like, yeah, your partner gets to consent about whether or not they're online, but why does your partner need to be in your videos? Maybe they meant not talking about the partner, like pretending they're single. I can't be with somebody who I have to censor out of every part of it. Oh, okay. So they mean like pretending they don't exist, right? That's what that means in good faith. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not just going to throw them under the bus. I am going to also read my own journal of my own lists I made when I was a youngin', right? Chad says, would you say it's a preference to not date people with different values, or is it more of a requirement instead? It depends on the values. It depends on the values. Like, I don't value hiking. I don't value gym life. I don't value it. So if someone's like, hey, it's really important to me you're active, oof, I am not for you. I am not an active girly. I will never identify as an active girly. I am not an active girly. That's not me. My mother-in-law said to me, I'm so glad my son found somebody who likes to be at home as much as he does. Yes, ma'am. That's me, girly. That's me. So values are and can be, values are a reflection of morals and ethics, but not all morals and ethics need to be the same for them to be good. You can be a good person and value hiking. You can be a good person and not value hiking. Can you be a good person and not value liberation for all? I don't know. Okay. 713, 13 by age 29. So how old was I in 2013? Hold on. I was born in 1989. Someone do the math for me. Hold on. 2006 was 13 years ago and I'm 36. 26? Wait, I can't do math. So if that's wrong, that's not my fault. So it says by age 29, goals for life, become published. I wanted to be a writer when I was young. Tee-hee. Start a business, a bookstore. Oh my God, I loved this era of my life. I really thought I was going to open a bookstore. Okay, 23, 24. Have a permanent apartment, my home. 2013, this is 2013, Brittany. Get a kitty. I didn't have Indiana Jones yet. Create a loving and equal goal-oriented life with dating person at the time. Okay. This was when I was dating the guy who was 12 years older than me. Anyways, that was a mistake. Okay. Creating a community-oriented business. Okay. Community-oriented business. Okay. What does this say? Hold on. My handwriting's really bad. Fuck. What does this say? Kids under 14 post accomplished by adult. I wonder if that's because he had kids at the time and I was thinking about his kids. Front room, then back room for discussions. Oh, kids under 14 have kids? I don't know what this was. I don't know what I'm trying to say to myself here. Then back room for discussions, observations. Oh, I know what I'm saying. Sorry. Create a community-oriented business. Kids under 14 to be accompanied by an adult. Front room, bookstore, discussions, observations. Oh, I'm talking about the business. Okay, to create a sense of art and community. That's what it is. I'm talking about the business. Replace where people... replace? I don't think that makes sense. Where people come from to discuss life. Safe haven. To create sustainable living. Okay, 2013, Brittany. Sustainable living, community, safe haven, honest and open forum, arts and books. Okay, that was 2013, Brittany. Okay, here we go. This is 2015, Brittany. Okay, 2015, Brittany. Things needed. Must work well together. Must take pride in one's work, home, and relationships. Must have money and a job. These were the lists I made before. Must be considerate of others. Must be kind. Must be honest. Must be prideful of one's work and humble when in the wrong. Willing to listen. Can't identify as lazy and mean it. Because, people say they're lazy all the time. Okay. Most problem solve to make environment better for both of us. Must problem solve to make environment better for all of us. Okay. So do those need clarifications? Like be kind, be considerate. Now, the things that I would change now is like money and job, must have a money and job. That's not a requirement of me. It was before because I was dating people who just like wouldn't show up and it was being kind of frustrating. But then I realized that I really don't need you to have a job. I never even cared if my partners worked. I really didn't. That's why I was so annoyed. I always told my partners, I don't care if you work, but you can't make my life harder either. So you know what I mean? Like, we got to figure this out, okay? 2016, Brittany. Oh, wait, this isn't a list. Wait, hold on. I want to share this with you. This isn't a list of requirements from a partner. This is an example of what it was like dating at the time. 7, 16, 16. Sitting inside, I was dating this non-binary person at the time because I was polyamorous. So I was dating multiple people. So I'm at their house right now. And I say sitting inside blank's house, had to get out of the house because my now ex at the time, the guy I was dating at the time, what's this word? I think I'm trying to say desensitized my feelings, like made me feel numb. In relation to him, skipping class, I'm done. I say that a lot, but man, I'm really done. I cannot handle the lazy anymore. The total nothing from him. Over it. Going to finish out my contract because I was a contracted nanny, and then head home, California. My car payment at the time, I have a budget, was $367. My insurance was $144. My health insurance was $150. My food was $200 a month. My phone was $86. And my credit card I had at the time, I had a $200 payment minimum a month. Okay, so just for context, I would not officially end this relationship for another 3 years. I would say I was done for another 3 years. Okay. Okay. This is later in the year. So same year, but later in the year. Or wait, hold on. Let me double check that actually. No, wait. This is a month before that. So a month before I wrote that post, I wrote this, what I want in a partner. My now married partner and I went over this. It was pretty funny. Okay. Okay. What I want in a partner. Someone independent. Someone motivated to be better. Someone realistic and hopeful. Someone loving. Someone who listens. Someone who does what they say and admits when they can't. Someone who can do the small things. My tattoo, my Disney tattoo says the small things. It's between my sister and I, that we're sisters and besties, not because we're sisters alone, but because of all the small things. The small things go a long way. The small things go a long way, you know? Someone who can sit down and do the tedious stuff like bills and chores. Someone who understands that feelings and needs can change day to day and be able to voice it. Someone who will have sex regularly. Someone who will treat others well. Someone who will live and let live. Someone who will live and let live. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read my own handwriting here. Someone who will really take the feelings of others into consideration. Someone who is kind. Oh, wow, I repeated that multiple times. Hello, girl. Someone who will push me to be better. Someone who encourages me to get out of the house. Someone who wants to really plan adventures. Someone who plans. That's it. I made those lists because I was really struggling with my dating life. Like I was really struggling to connect. I was really struggling to feel seen. And so I don't blame this person. Like this person is obviously struggling to feel seen. But I think when we sit down and make lists, we forget to make lists that are about values. That yes, mine has a lot of values, but it's not enough. Like you can have a kind person who's great, who has all these things, and it's still not your person. Because the thing that was missing from those lists that I made, the thing that I think is missing from her list is actually liking the person, the consciousness, actually valuing that person, and actually really wanting to be with them forever. Like, it's a very big deal. You can have two really great people, but when they're together, they're not compatible. And that's what it is. That's the struggle. Like, not only do I have to like you and you have to have shared values, but I actually want to have to see you every day. Listen, as an introverted girly who, honestly, I got to get out of the house more. I really don't go outside enough. I stood on my balcony today and I was like, I feel alive. And then I was like, I want to go back inside now. And I do. I feel so good when I'm outside, but I just like, I can't figure out what time of the day I'm supposed to be outside when the sun goes down at 4. You know what I mean? But I've been in a foreign country now. I've been here multiple years. I don't speak the language. I don't get out of the house much. I have yet to ever feel sick of my partner. I've been now dating my partner for just about as long as I've been dating most of the people I've ever dated, and a little bit more than the average relationship, and just under my longest. So does that kind of make sense? Like my relationships usually lasted between 6 months to 2 years. We've exceeded that point. So within 2 years, I was like, this relationship's driving me crazy. We are not compatible. We got to break up. The on again, off again was 5 years. And we're almost going to get to that point relatively soon. Okay. Like we're nearing that point. And eventually we'll be past that point. And in all of this time so far, we have yet to get sick of each other. We've yet to feel negative about each other. I have yet to have any of the thoughts that I had during this time in my life where I was just like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I don't have those thoughts now. And that's I don't know how to explain it to you, but that's what I think that relationship should be. So when people say, oh, it's normal to fight, it's normal to feel like you're done, I don't care if it's normal, it's not healthy. I don't think what I have now should feel as unique or special as it is, but I think it might be when nobody seems to have a healthy relationship around us. Then it's like, damn, like, am I special? Or am I just in the category of people that are really dating for values and consciousness? Values and consciousness. Values and consciousness. So, I'm just really grateful that I've done so much of the introspective work, so much of the work that I needed to do to become this person. But I also think that, again, when we meet a person, that can change things. So if you go back to if you go to my podcast channel, at the end of yesterday's podcast that I posted, I kind of went through this. There's this new trend on TikTok that's like, we're being very strict in 2026. If you're a feminist, cut. If you don't go to the gym, cut. And I reviewed one of these guys' dating videos, and I went point by point on whether or not we'd be compatible. So if you're interested in that, you can go check out the podcast channel to go over that. And I think it'd be like really helpful. I'll link it in the chat. But that's why I think I don't even mind the trend. I think it's a good trend. But I think you need to understand why you're cutting somebody. Like, why don't you want a girl to know what time you were born? Okay, because you don't like astrology. What don't you like about astrology, right? Oh, you don't want a woman who's a feminist. Why not? What's your issue with feminism, right? All of that stuff I think is important, right? Chet says, do you think anyone could find this type of love at 24? Yeah, I think my brother found it at 21 with his wife. I think they are incredibly high compatible. They've been together 10 years. They have 5 kids. And, my brother and I are very similar. And he was really dating a lot of people like, no. And then he met this woman and I met her and I said, oh my God, I couldn't have picked a better person. I couldn't have picked a better person for my brother. And they have their values are, they had one date and they said, oh, this is my person. Got engaged in 3 months, married in 6. I got engaged in 6 months, married in a year, and that's kind of the point is like, if you have shared values and the consciousness, now keep in mind, they're also growing in a direction together. You still have to grow with that person. You still have to check in every day. We still have to say like, hey, like, do you accept me as the person I am? How do we have these conversations? So yeah, I do think people can find it at 21. I just think you have to really have a strong sense of who you are. So I tell this story a lot, but I'll tell it really quickly. When my brother was courting, trying to find this woman that he would then marry and make his wife, okay? Or she would make his husband, whatever, however we're going to say it. He wanted to date with this girl, and he said, I don't believe in sex before marriage. Is that cool? Because I'm Catholic. And she said, yeah, for you, I won't have sex before marriage. He goes, no. Do you believe in sex before marriage? She was like, yeah, but for you, I won't. He's like, no. I want you to have this value already. And that is what I learned from my little brother, because he's my little brother. I learned to take that into my dating life, that I didn't want somebody, because I always live for people's potential, not to date for your potential. No. Is this your value? Yes or no? Do you already have this value? I don't want to date somebody who's willing to do it for me. Is it because I use my ex? Okay, so this ex that I'm talking about in this, where I'm like, I'm done. This ex, one time his parents had gathered us together towards the end of our relationship, and they had us hold each other's hands. I've told the story before, but just stay with me. Okay. And they said, okay, blank to my ex, do you want Brittany to change in order to make this relationship work? And he said, no. And they said, Brittany, do you want blank to change to make this relationship work? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, if you want me to change, then I want you to change. And even his parents were like, do you not get are you not understanding the point of the exercise? I dated a person who was just like, they didn't have their own thoughts. Like, they never had their own values. Like, when I told them, I was like, hey, can you write down your values for me? Because I just want you to have these values. They didn't know how to. They just, no introspection work. But keep in mind, when I dated them, they were bisexual, queer, progressive, anti-conservatism, anti-Trump. When I started dating this person, they looked good in a way, even though they were I knew day one they were bad. But I kind of thought they were bad in the way that like, maybe they're in a bad situation. Maybe their life was just hard. I didn't know they were like about to make the next 5 years of my life the worst 5 years of my life, you know? So when I looked at people, and this, I got a comment over on my podcast channel. Wait, let me go find it. It's so good. They actually super chatted me, which was so sweet. Hold on, let me go grab it for you. It's exactly what I think is so important about dating that we take for granted. Who's been successful. Okay, hold on. Let me find it. This one. Okay. It says, oh God. Okay, hold on. That looks like a lot, but hold on. It says, I wish I had this. This is my latest podcast. You can see the comment, right? I wish I had this advice and this voice 6 years ago when I chose a long-term partner. I love my partner, but at the time I didn't know what standards I was allowed to have. I didn't have them fully fleshed out. I thought vocalizing my strong opinions without turning the questions on him was enough. When all I did was allow my partner to bury some half-baked feminism and shallow liberal ideology or worse that I wouldn't stand for today. And as it always happens, he couldn't spend every day with me and keep that hidden. That's not sustainable. It's taken many years to get to where we are now, where he understands my values for himself and knows he has to seek out the tools to educate himself. But if I could go back, as deeply as there is love there, I would not have chosen to spend years raising a grown man. Even today, he shared an anecdote from a comedian he enjoys. We share a sense of humor in many ways, but not so much in others. The story came across as pretty misogynistic. I had to say, you're telling me this because you feel it's funny and harmless, but I'm surprised you thought I'd feel the same way. In a relationship, not everything we say to each other has to be put through a filter of, will my partner find value in this or share my interest? Sometimes you want to vent about your day and it's for you, not the person listening. But if I could go back in time, a standard high in my list would be whether or not someone can know me deeply enough to see the things through my lens when prompted. If I ask, why might I find this upsetting and distasteful? I think with the right headspace, my partner should have the answer to that. True. I feel like my partner has that answer to it when we talk. I can say this because I can do this for him. I do know him on that level. It took him many years to see me on that level. At 21, I thought it was enough that someone voted progressive, had strong female presence in his life, and was comfortable speaking about LGBT people and being around them. Goodness gracious, no one warned me that that's not the litmus test for whether or not a man was actively listening or bettering himself. I don't think most progressive, in quotations, men know that the learning never stops for all of us. Yeah, I think that's what it is. The learning never stops. And I think I didn't know that either. I didn't know that when I was dating. I thought as long as they ticked off like these things, I've never dated a conservative. I mean, I guess the only person I ever dated that grew up conservative but was quote apolitical was a girl I dated in my early 20s. And that was a struggle for sure. But she was like, bisexual and hanging out BDSM dungeons. And we had a really great time together. It was so much fun. But it wasn't a long relationship. It was like 6 months or something. Okay, we had a great time. And then we broke off and had one of the best breakups ever. We went to IHOP and had pancakes. I hope she's doing good in her life, okay? We were incompatible. She wasn't political, but the next few people I dated were always liberals, always anti-Republican, always this, but it wasn't enough. Actually, I said in my podcast yesterday, the guy said, if you're a liberal, cut. And I said, honestly, I don't know if I could date a liberal now. I'm pretty sure I couldn't. I'm almost positive that if I was on the dating market today, I would never date a liberal. And that's just the point. You meet people at different times in your life. And that's why growing together in a direction is so important. So one of the requirements of my partnership with my partner is that we continue to learn, we continue to deconstruct, we continue to aim for a future that's progressive. Okay? That's important to me. That's important to us. So we had to agree on that. Like stagnation, not an option. Okay? You cannot become stagnant. And you have to have these conversations where you say, can you understand how I feel? Like, what do I feel? Actually, if you watch Love is Blind, the reason I was so upset with people not understanding KB versus Edmund is because KB was being very much like, can you understand what I'm saying? And Edmund couldn't. And I'm saying, I'll do it, KB, which by the way, KB is bisexual. I saw an interview with her and she said she dates women. So I knew I loved her for a reason. I knew I was identifying with KB so hard for a reason, because I remembered being 27 and being this girl and trying to show up for your male partner who was immature and trying to do these things. And I knew, and that's why I was so in defense of her, because I knew exactly what she was trying to say. She's like, can you please be a mirror and make it clear to me that you understand what I'm saying? I do this with my partner, okay? My partner and I do this all the time, where I'll say, do you understand what I'm saying? Can you validate me so I know you know what I'm saying? He'll say something. I'm like, no, that's not it. Can you try again? He'll be like, hold on. This. I'm like, yes, that's it. Okay, you got it. And then we have to trust each other to be good faith. We have to trust each other that we're not playing a game. Now, I understand why Dr. Kirk Honda's brain read KB as maybe playing some sort of, not exactly KB. I think he tried to say it wasn't KB, but it was somebody like KB might be playing a game. The difference is good faith. The difference is the good faith that I felt from KB and my partner feels from me. I love you. I promise you, I will validate you if I feel seen. I do this here on stream. When you guys repeat the levels back to me or my ideas back to me and I go, no, yes. This person gets it. This person gets it. This person, because the way you react to me will make sense if you understand what I'm saying. But if you don't understand what I'm saying, you'll say something else. And that's what's so hard with debate, what's so hard with conversation, what's so hard with connection is like, you have to have the good faith to say like, is this correct? And then on top of that, you, like I said in my requirements for a partner, you have to be willing to say, oh, I think I am wrong. Hold on, let me double check. Oh, I think I did mishear you. Or, yeah, I think I am getting defensive. But just because I'm defensive doesn't mean I'm wrong. You can be defensive and correct. But maybe, you know what I mean? This is all why it is so hard to find not only good friends, good community, and good partnership, but it's hard to have a good relationship with yourself because you have to be able to deconstruct all of those things that keep you so limited. Like, look, so with all of that said, let's just go through the first couple again together. So this 32-year-old autistic woman puts out this post on Instagram of their dating requirements. If it has to be a man, they say, I'm looking for a man who has no kids in their life in any capacity, doesn't want kids. Okay. Is expressive, face, hands, eyes, voice, is between 34 and 40, no exceptions. Is above 5'10". I'm a majority attracted to taller men. I'm being totally honest. I've had a lifetime of men telling me they prefer me with long hair. Why can't I feel like this too? 6 and above feels right for me. Cares about their health, gym, and activities. Is neurotypical and extroverted. Has some real go in them, goes out in the real world, as well as happily having some loving time at home together. Okay, I need energy and momentum. Cuddly and affectionate. Okay, doesn't share my disabilities. I've been open in the past and for many years dated people like me, but post-diagnosis of me being autistic myself, after everything I've been through already, the fact is I still have a 10-year battle with NHS, with ADHD and more. And for the foreseeable future, I need the space and safety and ability to be me. Like, do we kind of see the thing? Oh yeah, Chad says, is there a list for non-men? Great question, because that's also the other part of it. I have the same list for both people, all people. It doesn't matter your gender. I don't care what your gender is. I have the same requirements for everybody I date. So the fact is, they said, if it has to be a man, this is the kind of man I want. What does it matter what their gender is? What does that mean? You know? Yeah, like, what does that mean? Okay, has a good work ethic, works like I do, is in a similar situation like work-wise. This one's crazy though. Hasn't done everything already with another partner. This reminds me of, there's this conservative dating bubble that says nothing worse than dating a girl that did all the crazy sex stuff with her ex but doesn't do it with you. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, maybe, in her early 20s, anal was a lot funner than in her 40s. You know what I mean? But also, what do you mean? Like, can't we do different stuff together? Like, you have no imagination? We can't do different things? Like, it's this idea of wanting to be first. It's this, like, obsession with being, I don't know, like, being, I don't know, like, I don't know. Okay, but then, My partner and I talked about this yesterday. What if I had watched One Piece without them? Like, what if I had already seen, because we talked about how it'd be easy. Like, if I dated now, the easiest way for me to weed out people is like, do you like One Piece? Did you like it? Because if you say no, we can't be together. That's a good question. Because I'm serious. One Piece is not negotiable. I'm not going to I cannot be with somebody who, one, doesn't like anime. That's a huge requirement for me. But also, like, if you hate One Piece, like, we can't be together. That's a values difference. If you've gotten, listen to me, if you have gotten to episode 1000 and you do not understand how good One Piece is, it's over. If you've never seen One Piece, that's one thing, okay? But then I told my partner, but if that was the case, then we wouldn't have this together. Watching One Piece with him for the first time has been a great experience. I mean, he's seen it a bunch of times, but us watching it together for the first time has been such a cool experience, and we've had so much fun. Right? Like, it's been a beautiful bonding thing that we do as a couple. We've cried together. We've laughed together. We've like yelled at the TV together. I'm like, oh, and like, it's so intimate. And yet, if I had watched it without him, it also would have been fine. You know, it's just kind of funny. Like, that it's just kind of funny the way we decide like who's compatible and who's not. But obviously it's, you know, it's like those girls who are like, ew, you watch anime? Gross. Like, obviously I can't be with one of those girls. Could you imagine if I'm on a date with a girl and she's like, oh my God, can you believe people watch anime? That happened to my friend. My friend was on a date with a guy and there was a Dragon Ball Z figurine. And my friend was like, oh, yeah, I don't want my apartment to be like filled with Dragon Ball Z stuff. And the guy was like, yeah, ew, anime. And they were like, wait, I want it to be filled with different anime stuff. But I was just talking trash on Dragon Ball Z. And I was like, I can't believe you talk trash. Like, I was like, I can't believe I'm fighting you for this Dragon Ball Z slander. But my friend is an anime person. They just don't love Dragon Ball Z. But this person doesn't like anime. And my friend had the realization of like, oh, we're talking shit for different reasons. And that's the point. I want you to process that information. Like, process the fact that there are people. And I get it. It's fine. Typically, I think it is neurotypical people, in my opinion, who tend to be anti-anime. I think neurodivergent people really love anime in a way, in the same way that we love Disney. There's just something really great about engaging in like youth culture in a sense. Like, a lot of anime are young characters, and there's something like Disney cartoons. Like, I love Disney. I don't have kids, but I still watch Disney movies. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's something really magical to me to keep youthful, to keep my imagination, to remember what it's like to be a kid, because I think there's so much beauty in remembering how wonderful the world can be when you're just curious and open-minded, right? Versus when you're like shut down. And like, I get it. You want to be serious when you're serious. So one of the other parts of it is like, my partner and I, we have a requirement in this marriage that we are adults when it's time. And when we don't have to be adults, we're like hanging out and chilling and nothing's that serious. But I do think life is too serious not to be a grown up. So you can't be a big kid forever. But, you know, sometimes I can be a big kid, you know, but my whole personality isn't being one. This person reads as like a bit, like very immature to me. And that's why I'm like, you need to grow up a bit. But then this is like a lot of people. Now, okay, let me show you this though. Comment section on Reddit for this post says, running out of things to share that still spark joy. So she thinks a man will fix her life. Got it. She's looking for a manic pixie dream boy to fix her boring, miserable life and to be her endlessly patient and understanding caregiver. Good luck with that. Damn, that's negative, bro. But if you're 6'1", 36-year-old athlete and a software engineer who's never been married and has no kids and never wants kids and wants to travel, but hasn't, she needs to explore everything with you, lives near exes, but willing to settle wherever OP says, and you want to deal with her disabilities and problems, she might take you kayaking. I don't know though. You miss so much. That's so mean, right? Don't forget though, you can't be neurodivergent. Only OP is allowed that. Damn, bro, damn. The must want to travel extensively, but you better not have gone to the Eiffel Tower already is sending me. Don't forget, no kids in their lives in any capacity. No nieces, nephews, cousins, friends with kids. I mean, I'm child free, but I don't want, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like that's the problem. I don't want to like rudely like go for her in this way, but damn. Like, yeah. Okay. She sounds like a wet blanket. A good rule of thumb is to be the kind of person you want to be around. It's hard to imagine even being friends with someone like this. Honestly, she does kind of sound like a Debbie Downer. She does sound a wee bit like a negative Nancy, Which this is why if she ever watches this video, I hope she knows, like, I believe in you and I hope you're a good person. But girly, we have got to meditate. We have got to do philosophical work. We have got to deconstruct ableism and deconstruct gender expectations and deconstruct because, oh my God, like, you are burdening yourself with a burden so unnecessary. Like, you're just so unnecessarily suffering. This is unwise suffering. She is unwise suffering. And I don't blame her. I think she's been trained in the world to think this is what makes sense, And it's not that uncommon. I see people all the time with exactly this perspective. So she's not alone. This is why I put myself on blast and mentioned my own lists, because I understand. I remember, and by the way, my partner and I went through those lists and some of those things. Okay. At one point in my life, I thought to myself, I could never be with somebody who was overweight. That was something I used to believe. And then, like, a long time ago, okay, I deconstructed past that when I crushed on a couple of people who were overweight. And I was like, never mind. Just kidding. You think things of yourself until, you see a beautiful girl walk up and she's like a little chunky monkey and you're like, never mind. I'm in love, Or like you see a guy who has that dad bear build and you're like, never mind. You know what I mean? So you really limit yourself because you haven't had the experience yet in a big way. Now, again, for me, what I tried to take into consideration is, like, I will never write off a whole category of person unless the category of person is bigot. Then in that case, no. But I'm not going to write somebody off like, oh, I'll never date anybody who is disabled. Like, I don't even think about that anymore. Like, no. You know what I mean? I don't think about it right now. I don't at this stage in my life. And that's why I think again, empathetic to this person, but they are 32. So it's kind of like, see, at what point should you hit the expectation of deconstructing these things? Obviously, everyone's life is different. So she could be 90 and still thinking this. But imagine being 32, autistic and disabled, and you're still out here being like, I need a 6'5", blue hair, blue eyes, whatever, blonde hair, blue eyes, I don't know. It feels very liberal coded, maybe, with a progressive twist. Like, they almost feel like they'd be on Tumblr, but they're liberal, which I feel like I was a liberal when I was on Tumblr, so that makes sense. Even though, guys, this is liberal Brittany, by the way. Liberal Brittany who wants to start a business about collective and community. That's liberal Brittany. That's not progressive Brittany. This is liberal Brittany who thought she was progressive, but I was definitely a liberal, even though I always hated the Democrat Party on principle. Okay. But yeah, that's more liberal Brittany. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Tumblr clock is so true. I think it is. I think it's very Tumblr coded. That says it might be self-protective too, self-sabotage. For sure. Like, right, afraid to make the connection. Well, I think that's the point. I said this to a friend of mine because all my friends are back on dating apps this season. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, is everyone back on a dating app this season? Apparently. And I said, are you ready for a serious relationship or are you ready for casual? They're like, yeah, I want to find a person. I was like, but everything about your profile says you don't want to find a person. And they're like, well, I just, I want to see where it goes. I was like, so you don't want to seriously date? And they're like, well, I just want to see where it goes. I was like, so you don't want something serious? And they're like, and I was like, what? You can't say I want something serious and write on your profile, let's see where it goes. What do you mean, let's see where it goes? There's only two places it can go, breakup or marriage. You know what I mean? You can't see where it goes. That's what I'm saying. Like, hello? And that's what I'm trying to explain to people. Like, you and your life is a reflection of what you're actually aiming for, whether you know it or not. So I'll give an example. I was in a relationship that when I examined it, I obviously wasn't serious about finding a life partner in an embodied sense. I was serious in a young, typical, oh my God, we have such a deep relationship because we're so dark and deep together, but it wasn't like a grown-up relationship. I wasn't actually thinking like a grown-up. And until I was like, hey, I want a grown-up life. I want to have a grown-up life, like for real. I couldn't admit to myself that I was in a childish relationship. I was in a child relationship, even though we were adults. You know, that's really hard. You know, it's different than women, because I was going down a rabbit hole of women who ended up being married to men who killed their kids or killed them. That is different than what I experienced. That relationship where the man is so deceptive and so perfect and they're not fighting and there's no red flags and you never would have seen it coming. I was not in that relationship. That is so scary. These women could not have known 19 years of a relationship to them that was so real, only to find out their husbands were living double lives. That was not my experience. I was in a typical toxic relationship where it was very clear we were having problems. Everybody knew. There was no facade of it being a perfect relationship. And what my denial is that I could take this very toxic thing and make it healthy. And that I wasn't toxic just because the man was toxic, except I realized, oh my God, what healthy person would stay in this relationship? Which is why when I got healthy and I was on my other journey years later, when I went back to dating, I recognized it first date. I'm like, nope, that's the toxicity. Next. Nope, that's the toxicity. Next. And I was very strict about like what level I was going to deal with. Because look, all people have toxic moments, but not everyone has a level of toxicity that stays with them every day throughout the day, right? Not in the way that would be detrimental to your life and your safety and all that stuff. So when I dated and courted this person, it was like, hey, give me all of the things that are red flags about you or could be red flags about you, and I'll do the same. And then we can decide based off those red flags if it's really a red flag for our relationship, because, you know, red flags aren't universal. I'm autistic. My partner's ADHD. For some people, like this girly, apparently, that's a red flag. But for us, that's not a red flag. If anything, that was kind of nice. Now, to be fair, when we dated, I didn't know I was autistic. But I think there were clues. So at the time, I was diagnosed BPD and diagnosed or getting a diagnosis for fibromyalgia. But I didn't get a diagnosis for autism until after we were married. But my partner already kind of like, you know what I mean? They were like, so I don't think it was that big of a deal, you know? But I think that's the thing I had to be realistic about myself, was admitting that I was willing to be in bad relationships because I thought I could make it better. I could save him. If he just got the right therapy, if I just intervened, if I just believed in him hard enough, he'd be a good person. I don't have to worry about doing any of that anymore. I know he's a good person. I know they're great. She really shows up, and we're an amazing team together. And because of that, marriage is so easy. Marriage is so easy. Oh my God, it's so great. Highly recommend.